Hello, BookTube. I'm Peg, the Book Prize Addict, here today to start a multi-video project to read and rate all the books that have been on the recently Women's Prize for Fiction. The Longlist has just come out, 16 books on it, and I have 7 weeks, well, 6 weeks now. I'm going to make an effort to read them all and use my scientific numbering system to give a rating, which you'll see it's easier to compare books when you have more numbers to compare. So anyway, my numbers will go from 0 to 25 for each book, and I've on my link below, or show notes below, I've showed you the 5 different things that I consider important in a book and how much value I give each. So perfect score would be a 25, and it's easy to see what compare with the star system. You divide by 5. No, divide by 5, and that would be a 5-star. So, but there's many numbers in between this way. Okay, so we'll get started. Before I start, I want to tell you this is an interesting bunch. Now, I'm not reading them in any particular order. Actually, I'm trying to finish the ones that are due at the library first. But what's interesting in this group of 4, I like to read 4 at a time and compare and contrast. There are 3 of them have what loosely I think you'd call magic realism. Now, let's just talk about that in a minute. I can see my old buddy Sean, the book maniac, going, no, I can't stand magic realism. But actually, it's turning up more and more in contemporary fiction. And let's just describe it a little bit. It's really on the lowest level of fantastical specular elements. In magic realism, it's not like science fiction where everything's crazy. These are normal people. It's usually a normal world, and just little unusual kind of ghostly things happen that everybody kind of takes for granted. Nobody thinks it's strange. And it actually, I think, adds a sense of atmosphere to many tales, especially if they're kind of weird anyway. But 3 of them have it, and I'll explain how it works in each. Now, if you wanted to get more fantastical, you could read straight fantasy, which usually has normal people but strange happenings, strange weapons, and then there's science fiction, the most fiction there is, which you don't even have to have humans in it. So, okay, so magic realism, not that bad, Sean. Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about the one that does not have magic realism in it, Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. Meg Mason is a former newspaper and magazine writer, and I would say probably this is the most commercial of the books I'll talk about today. Still a good book, but probably farther on the commercial scale than the literary scale, which is fine. I mean, Women's Prize has all kinds. Okay, just a little bit about this. One thing I did, the part I looked most of my 5 categories is the plot. It really had a well done and good plot. It opens up with a 40-year-old woman in England living in Oxford in a real fancy house in a gated community, and it looks like she has her life together. And then all of a sudden we find out that her husband has just left her and she can't live there. She doesn't know what to do. Okay, so it starts there, but then it immediately goes back to 20 years before when she was 20 and tells her story, how she got there. And she has a bit of a mental illness that's not real obtrusive, but crops up now and then. She says that when she was 17, her mind blew up, and she's been to many therapists and has worked on it, but she never seems to be completely cured. Anyway, so this is a book about the rest of her life, or not the rest of her life until she's 40 and the husband leaves, and then they finish it up. And you understand a lot more, actually I did, about how mental illness can affect a relationship, a family, a person, even if it's not constant, not that always there. Okay, next I have, what do I have next? Oh, I have the book here. I have Ruth Ozeki's The Book of Form and Emptiness. Ruth Ozeki, this is, I think, her second or third book, and she is a qualified Buddhist priest. And you can really tell in this, there's some kind of foreign things to me, but I think must have something to do with Buddhism. This one deals with a young boy, 11 years old, who hears voices. Now, so we got something else with a mental problem. He hears voices, and he's afraid to say so, but he's acting weird and he doesn't do well in school. His father's just died in a weird accident. His mother's kind of not getting it together. Anyway, so he spends a lot of his time skipping school and going to this library. Now, the library is, the way it's described is my favorite characteristic of this book, which I've given all the possible numbers to sense of place. I love it when you can just feel a place. Libraries, older libraries, have a kind of feel to them anyway and smell. But this is, in this case, it was a real old library, and instead of building a new one, they built a new one around it. So there's all kind of hide places and nooks and crannies between the old one and the new one, and he spends a lot of time in these different places, meets some unusual characters. There's some great characters in this, and it's very good. The whole thing does some, I have to say, one thing, if you're a book lover, it's very meta. The books actually talk to him. Now, at the end, the author explains that there is actually several groups, .NET groups, that have talk about hearing voices, that maybe it's not that unusual. Maybe it's not always that bad. So that's an interesting thought. Turns out to be not that bad in his case, but people sure think he's weird. Okay, next we have Creatures of Passage. I love this one. Okay, I don't know if you can tell. This is a kind of unusual story about a woman in the southeast corridor of Washington, D.C. If you've been there, it's called Anacostia, and it's an older area. And she drives around. She's kind of a taxi cab driver. At night, there's her car, an old car. There's the Washington Monument. And the feel of this really gets into it. In this one, it's a story of a black family, some of who've died unusually, and how she's trying to find out some things. There's also a young boy in this who is trying to find out some things and grow up. And this one was just wonderfully done. I thought I gave the most points possible in this to the writing. I mean, she made me feel like I was there, and the people were so real. I have spent a lot of time in that area, which helps, but I think anybody would definitely get a good sense of place out of this. And, I'm not even telling you how many points. I gave this one 20 points, which is equal to a 4. You divide by 5. The first one, Book of Bliss and Sorrow, I gave 17 points to, and Book of Form and Emptiness, I gave 18 points. So we're up to 20 for this one. Now to the best book of this group. It's just been, I think, published out. Build Your House Around My Body. This is a story about a American Asian young woman, quite young, just out of college, who goes to Saigon in Vietnam and gets a job as a English teacher, English as a second language, and gets real involved with the myths of Vietnam and the strange going on. She is not real good at teaching. She has all these tricks to keep people occupied, and she manages to get in all kind of trouble. But this one also has all kind of different characters. In fact, there's what we call a fortune teller, and he has 2 assistants, and they all travel one day to do an exorcism out in the country somewhere. And I'll tell you that is an exorcism from hell. That was pretty close to the front of the book, and I'm thinking, wow, what's happening next? Okay, it goes on, as I said, there's maybe a little bit more tragic realism in this, which is often the way with Asian type things. There might even be some talking animals, but it really works together well, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope you guys will give this a chance. I'm on to my next four to read, and I'll be back later. Bye.